Michael Davies, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
So, Michael, just before we jump into the quick questions, you run ABM at Red Hat. You've worked at Intuit, Rico, and Sabre. I think I pronounced that right.
Yeah.
All heavy hitting companies. What? My question to you, and the question I love to ask people, is how did you end up in marketing?
I guess it started from kind of an earliest kind of stage of my career. So I was doing marketing, or I was doing business studies at college, and there was a marketing kind of element to it, like a marketing assignment. And my teacher just said, "Hey, you're good at marketing. You should do marketing." And then it kind of just started from there. And then I think I did marketing like as a course in uni. And then when I finished uni, or around the time I was finishing uni, Mad Men, it just come out on telly, and I basically wanted to be Don Draper. So yeah, like a couple of kind of things that kind of, I would say those are kind of the two big things that kind of led me into a marketing career. Was just like a aimless 18-year-old at college, didn't know what to do, and then someone saying you're good at it, you should do it, and then like watching a very cool, handsome man on telly do marketing campaigns. I was like, yeah, I can do this.
That's a great show. They're the most functional alcoholics I know, but I guess it spurs creativity. All right, interesting, amazing. So what we're going to do is we've collated 7 questions from the community, challenges that people are facing or just would like your take on, and I'm going to pose them to you one by one. So are you ready for challenge 1?
Yeah.
Cool. So challenge 1 came in from Pierre van der Viesten, who runs ABM at Adobe, and he asked if you could change one thing about how marketing and sales work together today, what would it be? So quite a controversial start, but interested to your take.
Well, I guess for starters, us at Red Hat have a really good relationship between ABM and sales. That relationship is basically built on the fact that the sales team have to kind of advocate for having an ABMer. ABM isn't forced upon them, it isn't thrust upon them. They kind of have to pitch to have an ABM element into their account. So that means that they're bought in from the very beginning. And in terms of the relationship between sales and marketing, a lot of it. I think the crux of the question is like improving the relationship between the two of them, and kind of how do you kind of get the equilibrium between the two, right? And I think most alignment between sales and marketing is somewhat performative. As in we talk about MQLs and maybe have a Slack channel, but like at the end of the day, or at the end of the quarter, the thing that's most important is revenue. I think that's probably where the hymn sheet that marketing and sales should hit off is that they should both be reporting revenue numbers at the end of the quarter. Because if you have kind of siloed KPIs, like my sales team have nothing to do with open rates and click-through rates and color theory or anything like that, right? They and I don't have kind of influence on, say, number of meetings they've booked or the closing rate and that sort of thing, right? Those are kind of siloed KPIs where none of us have nothing to do with each other. Revenue is probably the one thing where we do have joint kind of KPI and so in Red Hat we have marketing touched and marketing sourced pipeline. That is probably the number one kind of thing to kind of pipeline to kind of KPI to kind of align upon. And I think what else is another thing is that sales can be quite prescriptive in what they want. They'll be like, just give me a one pager, just give me something or other, right? Or I'm doing an event, and can you just get some, I'm doing an event, and I need some books or I need some notepads or whatever. And don't ask me about how many times I've been asked for red fedoras to be delivered to an event or delivered to a customer. It's our logo, it's our brand, but like that's a very tactical thing. Us in marketing, we're quite smart. We're also people pleasers by kind of, just design or by choice. So, come to us, sales should come to marketing with, oh, like I've got this problem. Like I've got I've got this particular audience, and I've got this particular problem that they want to solve or I want to solve. How can we go about doing it? And a smart marketing person should be able to kind of take that information that you've got and deliver you a really kind of bespoke marketing campaign that's not kind of just really kind of, something that a salesperson could think of, because that's usually what happens, is that a salesperson usually just kind of goes, just give me a one pager and I'll throw it to some people, right? Like, I think the best marketers can talk about, long lifetime value, the payback period, and that sort of thing. Not just like color palettes and open rates. I think a marketing person should be able to sit next to the salesperson and not get kind of eaten alive by the CFO, a board meeting, because they don't want to be seen as just an expense. They should be seen as bringing revenue to the table.
That's superb, especially the red fedora. That's genius. You're probably sick of that for sure. Okay, I'm conscious of time, so I will leave the follow-on questions. But I love the Uno Reverso card where the sales have to pitch for ABM. That really is unique compared to a lot of other companies that we speak to. Challenge 2 is ABM on a budget. So this came in from Gillian Condamudi, who previously ran ABM at Akamai. So she asked, if you're a ABM teams are relatively small, unless you're probably at Red Hat. But like, as a solo ABM practitioner with like zero budget, where would you start and how would you execute that?
I'm gonna flip it, but kind of not give you
the
answer.
Maybe reverso cards going left, right, and center.
In reverse, you having zero budget is the most liberating thing you can have, right? You don't have to do return on marketing investment, because anything you get is instantly better than if you spent any money on it. So think of it, don't have the mindset of like, oh my God, I've got no money and there's nothing I can do. You are liberated to do anything because there is no money involved. In terms of like the practical things someone should do, firstly, focus on a maximum of 5 accounts. I think 3 accounts, but go deep on those accounts. Don't go wide and start having a hit list of like, a top 100. Pick 3, go deep, go obsessive, go Sherlock Holmes, and figure out everything about those 3 companies and the people involved in those companies. So look at, podcasts from like the C-suite, look at strategy decks, look at annual reports, do kind of unscalable things that kind of, you wouldn't be able to do if you were doing 100 accounts. So that's the first thing, is, go deep on 3 accounts. And then kind of, what's the other way of describing it? Like, do unscalable things that are kind of not going to be replicated. So do handwritten notes, you can do really creative gifting, and you can be more memorable if you kind of do things that are unscalable at, personalized unscalability is probably the best way to describe it. I found out that like, one of the directors at one of the banks that we're pitching to really like Lego. So we got him a Lego Red Hat fedora. Instantly, like, on his desk, that's his pride and joy. So yeah, do things that are kind of unscalable is the best way to describe it. And like, constraint is the mother of creativity. You have these kind of rules and you can play within them, but you get so much more than just having kind of having access to an endless list of marketing contacts. We do so much better if you just had 10.
Yeah. It kind of, you might have had it at your university as well. There's that challenge where it's like, hey, we're going to give you £10 or £20 to go start a business, or at school.
Yeah.
And then they come back and you've got to turn it into as much money as possible. And the trick was, don't focus on the budget. What can you do for free? Like, you could go cut grass or something. Like, you don't actually need money. Genius. Challenge 3 came in from Kyla Nuessa at MongoDB, so all big companies today. She asked, what's one unconventional ABM tactic, Red Fedora, that surprised you with how well it worked?
This is a really specific example I've got. So at NatWest, we do an initiative called Future Females in Tech. There is no product push, just shared values between us and NatWest. There's no ROI, there's no product, there's no pipeline, but it's we've been doing this for 3 years now, and it's got so much kind of positive vibes around it. The brand equity we've got from doing these Future Females in Tech events outstrips any kind of ad campaign that I've ever done to them. It's almost like, I don't want to say it, but it's almost like a Trojan horse in kind of brand delivery. Like, we do this event, we get all the feel good vibes from it, but it's not wrapped up in a marketing message. It's wrapped up in this kind of positive message of getting more girls into technology.
And with we are short on time, but I'm going to go here. And with that, like, how long do you see from, because you mentioned in question one about revenue obviously being the main factor. This is phenomenal for obviously like introduction, breaking in maybe top of funnel plays. How quickly can that translate? Have you got like a way of converting that Trojan horse into revenue, or any tricks there, or is it simply
only kind of the only thing we can do is attribute the attendance of like a member of the C-suite to attending that event. And then also as well, like the kind of unmeasurable things is just like our sales guys was able to attend a meeting that wouldn't be someone like let me say that again. Yeah, the first thing is that we are able to tag the C-suite in the kind of marketing campaign, like I've attached to it, so that any kind of activity around the C-suite, like in the buyer group and that sort of thing, we're able to attribute to this kind of campaign. You have to bear in mind that obviously ABM campaigns, from my perspective, last between 1 to 3 years, because that's the kind of life cycle of a kind of a deal that we have, right? We have 3-year, 5-year renewals. So I might do something this year and it might not happen until 2030, for example, right? The other thing is that they get invited, Red Hat get invited to meetings that aren't vendor related, and they're not looking to kind of buy at that moment, but we're invited to the table to talk around partnering together instead of us pitching to them.
That makes total sense. Challenge 4 came in from Jim Gilkey. Great guy. He asked, where do you go to find real campaign examples or inspiration you can actually use in your own marketing?
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you where not to go. Don't go to LinkedIn, because everything is AI slop. Don't look at award shows, because everything is just kind of pats on the back and people and then retrospectively doing a pitch deck that answers the brief, right? So those are the 2 places you do not want to go. Where you do want to go, I'd say, is the unusual places. So I'd say that consumer brands, anything that's going to make, for example, Nike are a really, really good marketer. They can make me spend £120 on a trainer that maybe costs £30 to produce and send to me, right? So there's something to be said around Nike, for example, or L'Oreal. Like, L'Oreal aren't making shampoo; they're like making a revolution on the follicles of my head, right? So think of it as that's the kind of that's where you get kind of inspiration. I also think that another unusual place is maybe politics. I think that some of the, you said about the Red Hat Summit recently happening, and also as well, like Google have had their kind of I/O, and maybe Apple as well. Like, I think there's a lesson to be learned around kind of politics and around like having a kind of big brand and razzmatazz around it, and kind of like the tactics that they use to bring people into like a stadium and do all that kind of, make a cult. You almost want to when you bring people to your summit, you want them to be cult members effectively. So like, I think there's a lot to be learned around politics. And then just think outside of the world of marketing, art. Like I recently went to the Unframed or the Framed show in London. There's like a big art installation that's kind of like all these projectors, and you get like kind of 3D kind of art shows. That's something that's kind of, you get kind of inspired by that. Maybe do that at like your next marketing event. Stand-up comedy, like comedians are really good at observing stuff and delivering in a funny way. Their observations are actually quite kind of intelligent, and you could maybe use that as a marketing campaign. I also think that adding comedy, even in B2B sell, even B2B software, a hint of comedy goes a long way of making your brand not boring. So yeah, those are the sort of places I'd look.
Yeah, very, very good point. Yeah, people, even if you work in cybersecurity, they've got a sense of humor somewhere,
Yeah.
And I always think a good marketer is someone that also recognizes what something isn't. So thank you for opening like that. I do love that. Challenge 5 came in from Janelle Amos at Elevate Growth. I think she actually has a new position now. But she asked, when it comes to engagement strategies, what are your top 3 channels you would prioritize and why? And you've this obviously requires some context depending on the company, but I'll let you take this how you want. But yeah, interested in what you think.
So I think the engagement channels that I would kind of go for would be email, mostly because it's like, I describe it as like the cockroach of marketing, because basically it survives everything, right? If there's no algorithm. Your algorithm is date in, and then that's the top of your algorithm. Policy changes, GDPR, and kind of government controls, you will still get an email come to you. Budget cuts, sending an email is less than pence, right? In terms of how much you can get it through. Email just endures, and if you send an email to the right person and it has the right subject line, it will get open. So that's and also as well, like, it's easily measurable. You can do open rate, click through rate. Everyone kind of understands that. So I think email is like the number one thing that you should do. I think that the next kind of engagement strategy would be exec to exec outreach. So it's not scalable, it's not automated, but it is kind of very lethal. If you get the CTO of one company to email or reach out or DM the CTO of another company, that makes, like, it's a kind of sniper for marketing, right? You can't repeat it, and you can't keep doing it, keep going back to it. Like, it's a sniper with a golden sniper mixed with a golden goose, right? You can't just kind of fire, get your CTO to fire out 1,000 messages, right? So you need to use it sparingly, but that kind of human to human connection does really work. And when it's someone that's kind of at your level, you really will understand it and kind of get better at it. So, like, it needs to be carefully crafted. But yeah, like, exec to exec outreach, number 2 would be my number 2. And then number 3 would be live events. So don't do trade shows, don't do webinars where there's like a 3% attendance rate, but I'm talking like events in person that involve drinks and nibbles, in sort of groups of, say, 10 to 20 people. Really intimate gatherings work really, really well. The best ones also don't have an agenda. You just kind of open-ended talking. That means not having an agenda means people let their guard down and not talk about anything, especially when you add alcohol into the mix as well. So that's the sort of third one. And I'm going to give an honorable mention to post, as in physical post through the mail will bypass almost anything these days. If you can get a really good targeted piece of mail that's written or handwritten or just nicely typed out, or a small little gift that really kind of pushes through, that will break through any other type of marketing. And again, like, it's a sniper rifle with golden bullets. You can't use it every single time, but when it works, it works.
Solid. There's a solid 3 with a bonus one there. Michael, challenge 6 that came in, content creation. So how do you approach creating content for your target accounts?
So always kind of start off with the business problem and never kind of the product. When we do it at Red Hat, we kind of look at their annual reports and kind of conversations with the customers. It's never like the thing is, they never kind of say like, oh, like, I need to automate this, and have you got a program that automates this? It's like, it's kind of like, oh, like, I'm having problems like doing this at scale, or kind of that sort of thing. So one of Barclaycard's kind of thing on their annual report is just like, we need to be simple to deal with. And when you boil it down, it then becomes to like, oh, actually, like, you need to be able to automate systems in the background and that sort of thing, right? So then we have a product that fits into that, right? But you always start with the kind of the business problem. And yeah, you steal from kind of their strategy, their try and steal as many of their documents as possible, like their kind of future forward vision. Like a bank customer of mine had like Vision 27, right? And it was like, this is what we want, from an IT perspective, this is what we want to achieve. You read that as if it's the Bible, because that is going to be like the roadmap for how you sell to that customer, right? So you need to be able to figure out every single step that you can help them achieve their goals. And then you map a product to it at the end of it, but only at the end of it.
No, I think that's beautiful, because I think a common trap, especially junior people, junior sales, junior marketers make, is talking like, they look at, it's more of a product marketing thing, but they look at like, hey, here's all the fancy stuff that we can do. But what you're saying is, it's not even a case of just going one level deeper. It's like going 2-3 levels deeper and trying to understand, right, what are you actually trying to say? And instead of creating content around all the amazing stuff we can do, it's like, here is all your problems, basically, with speaking your language.
Yeah, everyone in a work environment has a problem to solve, and if you can make their job easier to do and make them look good, you will go far in life. Like, I think it was like an Elon Musk quote about like, you get compensated on how useful you are at solving problems, right? So you do the same sort of thing, right? You become an asset to the product owner or the champion in your account if you can solve their problem. And like, their problem might even be like, I want to get promoted, and you'd be like, okay, well, look, why don't you speak at our next event? That will raise your profile, and you can use that in your promotion. That's nothing to do with product, say, but the guy's going to get promoted into a new job, maybe bigger budget, that sort of thing, right? So you kind of think kind of longer term as well. So, but yeah, like, if you've got a target list of accounts, their annual reports should be on your desktop as kind of reference material. Another thing to do with kind of creating content for accounts is I'm calling it re-personalization. Personalization is like a company name at Dave. I noticed you raised a Series B recently. Kind of that's surface level personalization. Yeah. When you get into re-personalization, you're like, okay, like taking quotes from a webinar or a speech that they did and giving that back to them. So you kind of go, again, you have to go deeper. Like, this isn't like a surface level, oh, well done, you found my company name, because anyone can do that now. It's going in deeper and being like, okay, like trying to find the actual person and see if you can like quote a LinkedIn post they did and quote it back to them, or kind of, you're not even quote it back to them, but like kind of just say it again in a different way, and they'll suddenly respond to it 10 times more than if you just said their name. And then also as well, like in terms of like the actual whole way of doing it, think of it as creating a play as opposed to like a user journey. So you want to be kind of structured and dynamic, but very audience specific. And you want to kind of engineer like a feeling and not a funnel step. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, no, for sure. And that's to resonate with the actual person behind the account, right?
Yes.
And I think there was something else that you said. So I've got a real bee in my bonnet at the moment, because everything you're saying, I totally agree with. But like, I'm at the moment, this is like a personal thing, I'm questioning the longevity of this. So what you're saying is amazing. I totally agree. Like the hi, first name, even referencing company, Series B, all of that's fine. Tools like Clay are like pulling that in now like wildfire. And I think you're right. And I did this, and I've done this. It's like, I've spent the time to go through webinars and things and pick out things or join webinars. But then my co-founder, he built something in like a weekend, Charlie, right? Which almost scrapes like segments of webinars, like clusters of webinars in the industry, and it's pulling this stuff out. And it's just really making me question, with all this scrapable technology, right? And I don't know, I have no answer to this. Like, is the future simply no personalization? to get it? Like, what is the future? Because like, if technologies, it finally scales and it gets to that point where you can scrape webinars now, or like, and it just like anything you've got out there. This is me waffling. Sorry, like digitally. Like where is this going? Like this stuff's working now, which is perfect, because if you're listening to this now, right, use it 100%. I use it. It sounds like you use it. But yeah, I don't know if you've had any thoughts on it, or like if I can plant the seed with you and you can come back to me in like a couple of weeks or something, because things evolve. But
I think,
yeah,
so being like hyper targeted, I think so Facebook or Meta are doing that right now with AI, where their ads, they're the only one really using AI and making money out of it, because their ad system is basically backed up by AI, and it will start serving you ads that are really hyper specific. Like, and because Facebook has everything you know about you, like obviously it's connected to Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and something else. Like, I remember what was. It's also listening to you. I can't remember what it was, but like I was speaking to something.
I'm sure it is like an Alexa or something. Yeah,
I was speaking to my wife about something, and an ad came up about it, and that must only because it's listening. It's watching me kind of, typing in stuff. It knows, it's got decades of data on me. So it's got to know I've given access to my photo album. It knows everything about me. It knows where I'm going. It knows where I've been. So yeah.
So you're saying timing? Timing is basically like ultimately going to be the deciding factor, like who shows up at the right time when.
Not necessarily timing, but I do think that just like the amount of data. Like I remember like 10 years ago going to a conference and being like, like we've got data oceans and kind of just pools of data, right?
Yeah.
And it's only now that we're able to kind of use this. I remember like Channel 4 being like, oh, like we've got loads of data on like, customer segmentation, that sort of thing. It's helping us create programs. Same with Netflix, right? They know how long you're watching this TV program and what TV programs you are then engaging with, and then will build content off the back of it. Meta, not only are they kind of serving you ads, they're also serving you content that you might find relevant as well. So, if you liked one piece of content, you will like on your explore page on Instagram is suddenly then filled with that sort of content, right? Like I remember like looking at like leather bags and leather suit briefcases, and the next thing you know, I've got 2 new ads, every single ad, with different, with multiple, like just and I swipe left and right, and it's all just leather, pleather, rucksacks and bags and that sort of thing.
Dude, that's another episode with the Timu. Like they're a different animal. I was with my friend playing tennis last night, and it's the ads they serve you. And I've bought some stuff off there because I was like, wait a second, let's see what. Like just rubbish. It is all rubbish. But I was just like, okay, let me see if they deliver on what they say. And they did. And like all their promotions to me, it's like you're in Vegas. Like I'm getting like 50% discounts every single day, or like this is free and this is that. It's just like overwhelming. We're going a bit off topic here. Sorry. Did you, I interrupted you as well?
I think it's just we're talking about kind of like how what level of personalization we can get, and I think it's infinite. I think you'll be able to scrape enough data from me or anyone else that you would then be able to kind of give them, as long as because I think you could probably like work out everyone's username, or kind of digital aliases as well. So you could then if someone's like posting on X or what's it called, Reddit, on a different username than their real name, you'd probably be able to figure out who that person is, and then all the kind of niche subreddits that they subscribe to, you can kind of do stuff that, right?
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to think about it a bit more. Maybe I'll get you back on, or we can do this in person and hash this out some more. Right. Question 7 came in from Chris Rack, Mockingbird. really good guy. He asked, and I posted about this recently,
Yeah.
is the MQL dying? Is it still relevant? And why? What are your thoughts on this?
The MQL is dead. It's embalmed,
Dead.
stuffed. It's wheeled out every quarter like a stuffed parrot for performance theatre, especially in ABM, and especially in kind of B2B ABM as well. So, like at Red Hat, we're not selling like scented candles on Etsy. We're selling like multi-million-pound infrastructure that banks decide and blue chips decide on kind of like annualized basis and even multi-year basis. So like one person filling out a form for a white paper about the benefits of AI for financial services isn't the one, right? You just won't be able to. That is not something I could give to a salesperson and be like, "Well done, my job here is done." You've got like, I think the MQL is dead because it's a buying committee, especially in big companies, right?
Okay.
It's not the CTO has the final sign off, but you've then got like multiple heads of who have then like their own little budget. So you wouldn't, a buying committee has like between sort of 5 and 8 people that you need to then convince that like your product, your service, your offering is the best one, is the best problem solver for their problem. You've got like security, like obviously like from my perspective, right? You've got like a chief information officer, chief technology officer, security, platform, risk managers, and they've all got kind of competing agendas, right? Like obviously, like the CTO wants stuff that's kind of streamlined and fast, and you're going to be able to implement this right away. A risk person is going to be like, whoa, like we've got to got to make sure that there's a good single sign-on and kind of all that kind of security things, right? And the CIO may be like, well, this is great, you've sold me this product, but there's no way for me to link any of my data centers to whatever you're trying to sell, right? So there's competing groups, competing individuals in the buying group as well. So we don't even measure MQLs at Red Hat. We measure marketing sourced and marketing touched pipeline. And that can be anyone in the buying group is kind of linked to that opportunity. So the more people I touch in that opportunity that's in the buying group, the more marketing influenced that opportunity then becomes. So that's kind of how we do it. Yeah, it's just that's my thoughts on MQLs.
Well, look, the Red Hat huge, and we, as we discussed, and you guys have been smashing ABM for a long time, and then also you've got like the leaders of Sixth Sense saying the MQL is dead, and I'd say I think I've posed this question maybe 6-7 times to people over the last few months, and they've all kind of said the same thing, and I'm still clinging on to it, and maybe it is time for me to let it go. But like the way I see like an MQA, I totally agree with you. Like that, if you're going to report anything, how are we doing overall? You're right. That's MQA level, like to leadership and to the company and to sales. Like this is how we're doing. But an MQL to me, and maybe this is my sales background coming into play, is like, and the way I frame it is if that was like a battlefield, right? And you're trying to target, let's imagine, I don't know, Dunkirk or something, right? And you want to go for like I see like an MQL as like a weak point, or not even a weak point, like an enabler, like a key to unlock like wider clusters within that account. So at like, I don't completely disregard it, just in my opinion. But I'm saying this because I want you to almost challenge me and correct me, because I'm here to learn too. But like to say it's completely redundant, I just don't understand how we can say that it's completely redundant. Like if as a salesperson, like I still want to know who's like responded with what, and have we got any context around them? Who do they report into? Who reports under them? How can we influence them to grow? Does that not factor into the equation at all?
Not really. I mean, having a new person download a piece of content just doesn't, like, it's just not worth then, from our perspective, a person reaching out. Another example, the CEO download like a white paper on like, AI and FSI. And I was like, why don't we just try reaching out to him? He's like, no, like that's just like or the CEO of a bank doesn't have like might not have final sign off. It'd be the CTO, the CIO, who might have kind of, he's a influencer at most, at that stage, right? When it comes to the kind of board level, right? Because it's a bit like, they just don't, why would the CIO necessarily listen to a CEO who's just read one report about AI and decides that this is the vendor that we're going forward with. I think that if you're looking for new opportunities and like net new, you're kind of reaching out, like you go for like a land and expand, then I can get on board with doing old school with kind of MQLs and that sort of thing, because you need to basically get enough MQLs to then group those people together. So if we were going like with the ABM that we do, we're established in that account, but we might go for like a different line of business if we're trying to land and expand. But also, if you're a good enough salesperson, you should kind of have inroads into that new lines of business anyway. And that's kind of just old school kind of setting of just like, hey, look, you've got this problem. Does anyone else kind of anyone else experiencing this problem? Then you've got kind of one or two people, and then you can maybe supplement, that insider information with, marketing, helping with gathering some more people. But I think it's probably more of a old school sales activity as opposed to a marketing activity. And I think that MQLs can, MQLs can kind of build up that buyer group, but it's not going to be the kind of be one end. It's a bit like a rugby scrum. Like it's kind of like messy and kind of, people are kind of pushing in different directions. Right. That's kind of my opinion.
A rugby scrum is a good analogy, right? All right, that's another thing. These last two questions have been great because I'm just going to think on these a bit more.
I wrote a soundbite. It was like rest in peace. Rest in peace, the MQL. You've had a good run, but now it's time to get out of the way.
I mean, I quite like it. I like it. Oh god, I've got really strong opinions about things, but they're weakly held, like that strong opinions weakly held phrase, where it's like, look, I will die on my sword for something until someone challenges me with a better argument. Then I don't know if that's a good trait or bad trait, but I'll be passionate about it.
My better argument for MQLs is marketing sourced, marketing touched opportunities. If you can prove that you have pushed the opportunity, like it's not about kind of bringing out, from my perspective, it's not about bringing new, not necessarily net new opportunities. It's about deal acceleration. Like we've got deals in the pipeline, but, we almost sometimes live and breathe by like how quickly can we push this deal over the line, and can we get this in before the quarter ends? That's, small companies will also kind of have that as well, right? It might be that a deal that cracks in the first quarter saves the company from having to take out a loan or kind of going into administration because they've got this deal in quicker than if they were just relying on sales. So marketing sourced, marketing touched opportunities.
Okay. Lots to digest there. Deal acceleration. Well, that's a huge challenge. A lot of the people I speak to, or the companies at least, like that nurture piece at the moment is key. They're trying to crack it. Right. Let's get a bit lighter here. Just for fun, right? So we build a lot of tech at ABM Answered, and we like to ask if you could invent a tool or technology, what would it be and why? And if you can't think of anything related to ABM, you can take this whatever way you want.
The only thing I could think of was I want to be able to 3D print clothes. I want to be able to prompt it and be like, I've got an event coming up and I want to wear X, Y, and Z, and I want it to be black and white, and I want it to have, buckles and that sort of thing, right? I want to be able to 3D print clothes as if it were real clothes, and I want to be wear it once and throw it away and put it back and recycle it and put it back in the machine and then print off another piece of clothing.
Do you know much about 3D printing?
No, not really.
No. Okay. Wait. So what would that material be then? Like print? Like,
well, imagine if it was like a sort of recycled plastic or something.
Yeah. God, that would save so much like junk. Like it must end up in landfill.
Yeah. But if I could do anything, do you know what it made me think of it? I was reading like a sci-fi book, and it was like a throwaway comment of like so and so printed a new uniform, and I was like, that's what I want. I want to be able to I don't want a cupboard full of clothes because I'm only wearing 6 items right now. I've got cupboards and drawers and stuff full of clothes that I like, might not wear 6 months at a time, but I want to be able to go like okay, like the weather's this, so I want something lighter and I want something that's kind of semi smart, or I go like, oh, like it's freezing cold, give me like a big thick jacket, and I'm just walking to the when my kids in nursery and back, just give me some clothes for that right now.
You could also make it like experiential as well. Like could, so I used to work in experiential, but like you almost like walk into like this tube kind of thing, very similar like those water slides that just like drop down, and then like it comes down, it like prints it over, like, and then you come out and you're branded Red Hat or something. That's a bit extreme though, isn't it?
Yeah, but that would be, if I could invent one thing, that would be it.
Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be very, very cool. All right. Okay. Well, maybe we'll put that on the incubator log, but it probably won't get around to it anytime soon, unfortunately. Right. Final question, Michael. Do you have a question for our next guest?
Okay. I've got 2 potential ones that I kind of thought about, but you can choose either one. Or
Let's go.
Right. Okay. So, what is one sacred cow in B2B marketing that needs to be slaughtered, and why haven't you done it yet?
Great. I love questions like this. Controversial. And
my reasoning is because you kind of like more people in, like, especially in marketing, we're people pleasers, right? We need to say no to something, and like there's always like there was something like like lead scoring and MQLs might be one thing, right? Okay, this person's got 100 mic points for going on our website, right? Or ineffective webinars, or or newsletters that have like a 1% open rate, right? There's got to be something that you do right now that you just are like, and even like there's like things like on a dashboard, like numbers on a dashboard that you keep reporting. You kind of go, well, why am I doing this? Like, so like what thing? It's kind of like what would you say no to? But like, what's the kind of one sacred cow right now that you are holding on to that if you had the gumption would get rid of it, but you're making the assumption that that's important to someone else?
Well, I can't remember. It's a really good question, and I'm pretty sure I thought about this recently as well for myself, but I can't remember what it was. But it was to do with like this is not ABM but product related, and it was this product manager talking about how she does all these reports on like what revenue would this feature bring to the company, this app, and every year for like the 6 years she worked there, they've got it wrong, and every product team's got it wrong, and it's like the truth is, they pay her all this money and the team all this money, and you won't ever know properly until you put it out there and see how like the market reacts to like, does it influence revenue? So this is a really, really good question for ABM. So thank you for posing that. Michael, you have been wonderful. Thanks so much.
No worries. Did you want to go over anything else? I can kind of got time now. So
do I want to go over anything else? Not off the top of my head. Okay. I've got a ton of questions I could pose to you. Let's bring it up. So,
I've not had to think about any of these, but I'll go.
All right, I'll pick you out some of my fun ones. So these are all previous guest questions. We'll start with my favourite. One of my favourites from Emily York Goldney. and she asked if the sky was the limit in terms of budget, what would be your best in class recommendation for an ABM campaign to drive account engagement? And I always say at the end of this, please be as unconventional as possible. Like, you've already mentioned your 3D printing device.
I guess I would probably turn guerrilla marketing into a menace. Probably the best way to describe it. I would, when we talk about buying committees, I would find everyone in the buying committee. I'd buy all of the print ads that are in their immediate neighborhood. If they get the train in, I want to be every train or bus in. I want to be on the bus station. I want to be in the train station. I want to be on, I want to buy all, I want to buy all the ads that show up on their phone. I guess I would do that as a kind of starter for 10 and just kind of buy every single media space around them. I'd want to be on their telly and everything. What else would I do?
It's definitely a question you probably want to think on a bit, because there's just so much you can do. But I would agree with that. It's almost like borderline. We're going to give Red Hat a restraining order. Like, how do they know where I live? But I'd
also go to the very limit of bribery.
Oh yeah, I mean, those rules are made to be broken anyway, right? I'm sure they get broken all the time.
I guess like if return on marketing investment was not an issue as well, because obviously that's one thing, right?
Yeah.
I could spend £1 billion but get kind of £1 of investment. That's not really worth. Like, you did the sell, but it's not really worth it in the end, right? So, like, I would kind of, if you are thinking about return on marketing investment, that's a different story. But I would, next level kind of guerrilla marketing would be the best way to go forward.
Also, it'd be so much fun, so much more fun planning something.
But it's more fun. I think it's more fun having no budget. When the zero budget one's quite interesting. The question you asked before about like, that's more fun because like. Sometimes you can kind of go like, okay, well, unlimited budget. What can I do? Like, I can see Monument back here, right? I could just sponsor Monument, because there'll be someone that wants to do it, or the walkie-talkie, that sort of thing, right? You could take advantage of that as an ad space.
Or like buy out all the restaurants around their offices with actors who are just talking about Red Hat, for example, just in the office, like Red Hat. That's kind of fun. All right, here's a question from Chelsea Wells, which actually ties in quite nicely with your question. She asked, what are some of the forgotten KPIs in ABM that are often overlooked?
Forgotten KPIs that are often overlooked. It would be some sort of stakeholder engagement, but I'm trying to figure out kind of what that would be. Like, things like meetings booked, but like not just kind of like new meetings, just like how many conversations you're having with your customer. Maybe just like conversations you're having with the customer. I know it's not something you can really track these days, but that sort of just in customer interactions is probably a KPI that we just don't really measure, and it's got to be on everyone's, like, not just like the salesperson to the buyer. It's about like the customer success person, or like the kind of other people in the company. How many people from Red Hat are speaking to your account, and how many times a day are they speaking to them?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one. It's the depth as well. Like, I think we work with this big company. Not as big as Red Hat, but they're pretty big, and they have no like call transcripts. They don't like record their call recordings, and a lot of their motion, probably like 70% of it, is outbound. And I always find that fascinating, because I feel like the actual what is said within those conversations is super important. But if they're just like, quantifying it we've had X number of meetings. I just feel there is a level deeper that you can go, but again, I haven't thought too much about it. Sarah Sanghi had a good answer to this, a really good answer too. He was like content utilization by sales. So like marketing make all this content, but how much of it gets used by sales? And I thought that was quite interesting. But I'm really interested to hear the responses to your question as well, because it's along a similar path. Are you ready? Are you all right for one more?
Yeah, do one more.
Cool. I wanna find a good. I'm really enjoying this. Also, you can tell that you know your stuff. The fact that I'm just putting you on the spot here now. God, I can't find a good one. Here's. Do I want to say what? No. All right. Okay. We're gonna go with Davide Sanseverino. He asked, looking back at your marketing career, what would you change and why? And I guess a lot of people say wouldn't change anything. It's made me who I am, and I would totally agree with that. But is there one thing that you're like I wish I went harder on this campaign for, or I wish I went down? I don't know. It doesn't even have to be ABM related, but like marketing in general.
When I was younger in my career, I think I definitely said yes to kind of everything. And I wish I'd pushed back on kind of stakeholders and people who were above me a lot more than what I did. I think, that would be the one thing. That would be the one kind of mistake, and one thing I wish I'd done a lot earlier in my career was kind of push back people and didn't get like micromanaged, and I didn't get kind of pushed, basically pushed around by kind of, seasoned salespeople and seasoned marketeers just to be like, and like, I think I tried my best to kind of people please, especially kind of early in my career. And it definitely kind of burnt me out after a while. So, I mean, there's a few people I'd say, fuck you to as well.
But like, is there any benefits to that? Like, do you feel like there was did you get any? Because I get why you do it. I've done it before as well.
I mean, the benefit was that, and like, the benefit was that early in my career, I did eat a lot of shit. I think you kind of have to do that at a certain stage, but I do think there is a kind of benefit to pushing back and saying, no, I'm not going to do this, or no, I don't agree with you, and here's why. So that would be, and I think if you kind of learn that a lot more, you get a bit more respect a lot earlier. So there's a way of doing it, right? There's a way of
setting boundaries.
Yeah, and there was a couple of companies that will remain nameless, but there was definitely a couple of people where I'd just said like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that.
Those sort of people will only get to a certain stage anyway, I think. Look, Michael, I know you've got to go, but I really found this really good question. Can I ask you one more, real quick?
Go on.
Karina Owens, she's a legend in the ABM game. She asked, what would you contract, scale, and fire in ABM? So similar to the Snog, Marry, Avoid, but contract, fire, and scale.
Contract, fire, and scale.
Yeah,
contract,
so what would you outsource, get rid of completely, and what would you scale up? So, I don't know, ads, landing pages, gifting. You could take this a million ways.
I would. What would I get rid of? I'd fire email newsletters.
Yes.
I would probably scale content personalization or re-personalization, right? Really get into personalization, like we discussed before, about like not just quoting a company and their, recent thing that happened in the news. You go deep on personalization, and I'd outsource. What would I outsource? Outsource events. I think I think if I could just get an event company to just sort everything out for me, whatever level, whether that be webinars or in-person meetups. I'm quite happy to let someone else do all that. Yeah, I feel happy about that.
I think that's super smart, because originally I thought, oh, I'd scale events. Events are really effective, and then I realized how stressful they are. But if I could outsource that stress, that would be amazing. All right, Michael, thanks for staying on and doing a few bonus questions.
All right, cool. All right, thanks very much.